Stop everything you're doing right now because I'm about to expose the most manipulative, emotionally exploitative segment WWE has produced in years, and the fact that everyone is praising Roman Reigns visiting Jacob Fatu in the hospital makes me sick to my stomach. This wasn't heartwarming storytelling, this wasn't the tribal chief showing compassion for his family, this was WWE using real-life family connections and fabricated hospital drama to manipulate your emotions while simultaneously burying what could have been an incredible storyline for cheap sympathy points. Before you click away or attack me in the comments, I challenge you to watch this entire video because I'm going to break down exactly how WWE played you, why this segment represents everything wrong with modern wrestling, and how they destroyed Jacob Fatu's credibility before he even had a chance to establish himself. Comment right now if you think this hospital visit was genuine storytelling or calculated manipulation, because we need to talk about how WWE exploits family dynamics and real emotions for ratings, and I'm done staying silent about it. This is going to make a lot of people angry, but somebody needs to say what everyone's thinking but too afraid to admit. Let's start with the most obvious problem that nobody wants to acknowledge. Jacob Fatu is supposed to be this monster, this incredibly dangerous enforcer who's been tearing through everyone on Smackdown like a wrecking ball. He's been built as someone legitimately terrifying, someone who brings a level of violence and intensity that makes even the toughest wrestlers think twice. And then WWE books him to get attacked backstage so brutally that he ends up in a hospital, which immediately destroys every ounce of credibility they spent weeks building. Think about that for a second. Your unstoppable monster just got taken out off screen by an attack we didn't even see, reducing one of the most anticipated additions to the Bloodline saga into a victim who needs Roman Reigns to come check on him like he's a child who scraped his knee. That's not good storytelling, that's character assassination disguised as emotional television. But it gets worse, so much worse, and this is where WWE's manipulation becomes crystal clear. They bring Roman Reigns to a hospital, film this supposedly intimate moment between family members, and present it as this touching scene of the tribal chief caring about his cousin. The problem is that it's all fake, all manufactured, all designed to make you feel something without actually earning that emotion through legitimate storytelling. WWE wants credit for showing Roman's softer side without doing any of the actual work required to make that moment meaningful. They didn't build to this reveal of Roman's vulnerability, they didn't create a situation where Roman's concern felt earned or organic, they just threw together a hospital segment because they knew fans would eat up anything involving family drama and the bloodline. And you know what the most insulting part is? It worked perfectly, everyone's sharing clips, everyone's talking about how deep the storytelling is, and nobody's questioning why WWE felt the need to hospitalize Jacob Fatu in the first place. Here's what really makes me furious about this entire situation. Jacob Fatu came into WWE with massive hype, with a reputation from the independents as one of the most exciting and dangerous performers in wrestling. Fans were genuinely excited to see what he could do on the biggest stage, how he'd fit into the bloodline story, whether he'd be positioned as a legitimate threat or just another body in Roman's orbit. And WWE answered that question definitively by having him get destroyed backstage and put in a hospital within weeks of his arrival. They took someone who should have been built as an equal or even superior force to Solo Sikoa, and they reduced him to a sympathy case who needs the tribal chief to visit him and presumably motivate him for revenge. That's not how you build new stars, that's how you ensure nobody will ever take them seriously as main event level talent. Let's talk about the broader implications of this hospital visit segment and why it represents everything broken about WWE's storytelling philosophy. Modern WWE is obsessed with moments over stories, with creating clips that will go viral on social media rather than building narratives that make sense and have proper setup and payoff. The Roman hospital visit is the perfect example of this diseased thinking. It's a moment designed to generate engagement, to get people talking, to trend on Twitter, but it exists in a vacuum with no real connection to coherent storytelling. Why was Jacob Fatu attacked? Who attacked him and why should we care? What does this mean for the larger bloodline story? None of these questions matter to WWE because they're too busy filming Roman looking concerned in a hospital hallway to bother with actual plot development or character motivation. And here's the part that should make every wrestling fan uncomfortable. WWE is using the real and OI family connection between Roman and Jacob to add legitimacy to their manufactured drama. They're exploiting actual family bonds to make you invest emotionally in storylines that haven't earned that investment through quality writing or logical progression. It's manipulative, it's cheap, and it's exactly what WWE does whenever they can't figure out how to create genuine emotion through actual storytelling. Just point a camera at two real-life family members, have them interact in a hospital, and let the family connection do all the heavy lifting while the writers pat themselves on the back for being so brilliant. Except it's not brilliant, it's lazy, and it's insulting to anyone who understands how good storytelling actually works. Now some of you are already defending WWE in your heads, saying that using family dynamics is smart storytelling, that it adds depth and realism to the Bloodline saga. And you know what? You're partially right that family dynamics can be compelling when done well. But here's the difference between good use of family connections and exploitative manipulation. Good storytelling builds to these moments, creates situations where family bonds are tested or reinforced through character choices and consequences. What WWE did with this hospital visit is take a shortcut, manufacturing drama out of thin air and expecting the family connection alone to make it meaningful. They didn't earn this moment, they didn't set it up properly, they just did it because they knew fans would react emotionally regardless of whether it made sense within the larger story. Let me ask you something that WWE hopes you never think about. What happens to Jacob Fatu after this hospital visit? Does he come back stronger and more dangerous, ready to destroy whoever attacked him? Or does he come back as Roman's grateful soldier, owing the tribal chief for caring enough to visit him in his moment of weakness? Because if it's the latter, and we all know it will be, then WWE has officially killed any chance Jacob had of being his own star. He'll forever be defined by this moment of vulnerability, by needing Roman to check on him, by being positioned as less than rather than equal to the tribal chief. That's not building a star, that's creating another member of Roman's supporting cast, and it's exactly why WWE keeps failing to create the next generation of main eventers. Here's what really exposes how shallow this hospital segment was. Compare it to genuinely great emotional moments in wrestling history. When Stone Cold Steve Austin was in the hospital after the piledriver incident, it led to one of the most compelling storylines in WWE history. When Mick Foley's injuries were shown, it added layers to his character and made his persistence more meaningful. Those moments worked because they were part of larger stories, because they had consequences that mattered, because they weren't just isolated segments designed to manipulate emotions. But the Roman and Jacob hospital visit feels like it exists in a bubble, disconnected from any coherent narrative, created purely to generate a viral moment rather than advance a story in a meaningful way. And let's be honest about the timing of this segment and why it happened when it did. WWE is clearly struggling to keep the bloodline story fresh after years of Roman's reign, Solo's turn, and all the various family drama they've already exhausted. So what do they do when they run out of ideas? They bring in Jacob Fatu, hype him up as this game-changing addition, and then immediately put him in a hospital so they can create artificial drama and stretch out the story for a few more weeks. It's transparent, it's desperate, and it proves that WWE doesn't actually have a long-term plan for this storyline anymore. They're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks, and the hospital visit with Roman is exactly the kind of empty calories content that results from that kind of directionless booking. Think about how insulting this is to Jacob Fatu as a performer and as a person. He worked for years on the independent scene, built a reputation as one of the most exciting talents in wrestling, probably dreamed about the opportunity to perform on WWE's biggest stage, and this is what they do with him. They make him a victim, they put him in a hospital bed, they have Roman Reigns visit him like he's checking on a sick relative rather than a fellow warrior. Where's Jacob's agency in this story? Where's his opportunity to show what he can do, to prove he belongs at this level, to establish himself as a force independent of Roman's shadow? WWE took all of that away from him with one backstage attack and one hospital visit, and now he'll spend months trying to recover the credibility they destroyed in a matter of minutes. Here's the worst part about all of this, and this is going to make some people really angry. The hospital visit segment with Roman and Jacob was praised by mainstream wrestling media, by content creators, by fans on social media, which tells WWE that this kind of manipulative storytelling works and they should keep doing it. Every time fans fall for these cheap emotional ploys without demanding better writing or more coherent storytelling, they're training WWE to keep producing garbage content dressed up as prestige television. You're rewarding them for taking shortcuts, for exploiting real family connections, for destroying character credibility in service of manufactured moments. And WWE has no incentive to change their approach as long as fans keep eating it up. Let's talk about what this hospital segment reveals about WWE's current creative philosophy and why it should terrify anyone who cares about the long-term health of the company. WWE is so focused on creating content for social media, on generating clips that will be shared and discussed, that they've completely lost sight of basic storytelling fundamentals. Characters need to be built properly, storylines need proper setup and payoff, emotional moments need to be earned through character work and logical progression. But none of that matters in modern WWE because all they care about is whether something will trend on Twitter or generate engagement on Instagram. The Roman hospital visit checks all those boxes while failing spectacularly at being good storytelling, and that's exactly the problem. And here's something else that should concern everyone. By having Roman visit Jacob in the hospital, WWE is once again centering the bloodline story around Roman Reigns rather than allowing new characters to establish themselves. Everything and everyone in this storyline exists to serve Roman's character, to make him look good, to reinforce his position as the tribal chief. Jacob Fatu's introduction should have been about Jacob Fatu, about establishing him as a legitimate threat and interesting character in his own right. Instead, his biggest moment so far is being in a hospital bed while Roman Reigns shows concern. That's not how you build new stars, that's how you ensure Roman remains the only star that matters while everyone else fights for scraps of relevance. Think about the message this hospital visit sends to the rest of WWE's roster, especially the younger talent trying to break through and establish themselves. It says that no matter how talented you are, no matter what reputation you build elsewhere, the second you come to WWE you'll be slotted into someone else's story and used as a prop to make established stars look good. Jacob Fatu isn't being treated as Jacob Fatu, he's being treated as Roman's cousin who got hurt and needs checking on. His individual identity, his unique skills, everything that made him special on the independents is being subordinated to the bloodline narrative and Roman's character. And if WWE will do that to someone with Jacob's credentials and pedigree, they'll do it to anyone. Here's what WWE should have done instead of this hospital exploitation segment. They should have let Jacob Fatu run wild for months, destroying everyone in his path, building genuine fear and anticipation around his presence. When the attack finally came, it should have been on screen, it should have been shocking and violent and memorable, not something that happened off camera between segments. And Roman's response shouldn't have been visiting a hospital like a concerned relative, it should have been pure rage, immediate retaliation, showing that you don't touch the bloodline without catastrophic consequences. That would have built Jacob up even in defeat, that would have created actual compelling television, that would have advanced the story in a meaningful direction. But WWE chose the easy path, the manipulative path, the path that generates social media clips without requiring good writing or creative courage. You want to know why this Roman hospital visit segment makes me so angry? Because it represents wasted potential on every level. Jacob Fatu's potential as a breakout star, wasted. The potential for a genuinely shocking and compelling attack angle, wasted. The potential to show new dimensions of Roman's character through actions rather than manufactured emotion, wasted. WWE had all the pieces in place to do something special, and they chose to do something safe and predictable instead. They chose manipulation over storytelling, they chose social media moments over character development, they chose the path of least resistance over taking creative risks that might actually pay off in the long term. And let's address the elephant in the room that makes this even more frustrating. WWE's main roster creative team has proven repeatedly that they don't know how to book the bloodline story anymore. They had years of Roman's dominant run that was genuinely great television, but now they're just rehashing the same beats over and over with different characters. The hospital visit is just the latest example of WWE going to the same well, using the same manipulation tactics, creating the same type of content because they've run out of fresh ideas. Jacob Fatu deserved better than being slotted into a played-out formula, and fans deserved better than being emotionally manipulated with cheap hospital drama that serves no real narrative purpose. If you've stuck with this video until this point, you clearly care enough about wrestling to want it to be better than what we're currently getting. So here's what I need from you. Drop a comment right now telling me if you think the Roman hospital visit was good storytelling or if you're starting to see how manipulative and damaging it actually was.